For those who don't know, a game jam is an event in which you have to make a complete piece of playable software in a short amount of time, usually 2 days or 48 hours, based on a theme announced at the start of the event, and sometimes you can even receive prizes. In the first weekend of April, I participated in one of the most popular game jams in the world, which is called Ludundar, in its 5th edition and 20 years anniversary, and in this video I'll share some of the development process with you. I hope you like it. The first step when thinking of participating in a game jam is to decide if you are going to do it by yourself or team up with someone. In the last few years, I participated with my girlfriend only because for me it's hard to find more friends willing to spend the whole weekend dedicated to it. Regardless, I always try to invite them, and this time 2 of them wanted to join us, Leonardo Gigliotti and Vitor Silva, who are both longtime friends of mine. So my team for this edition was Chris as the artist, me and Leo as the coders, and Vitor as the sound designer. Ludundar happens in 5 stages, which are Theme Slaughter, where the participants can suggest any theme in a short sentence and also approve or disapprove suggestions from other participants. Then we have the round 1, 2 and 3, where you vote in the most approved themes from the previous step. Then we have the final round with the most upvoted themes from the previous round. And finally, the theme with the most upvotes from the final round is announced, and you have to base on that to create your game in that edition. But you know what? One of the most fun parts of the game jam is the initial brainstorm, where many crazy ideas come out and you can literally think about anything you want. So I invited my team to make a brainstorm session for all the 16 themes of the final round. It was a lot of fun and I will share with you our thoughts. Usually it's also a good idea to have some major goal when participating in a game jam. This time I really wanted to implement something multiplayer and social. Since I was playing a lot of Elden Ring recently, their message system was a very good inspiration, and I tried to put this concept in most of the themes. And the first one in the list was Delay the Inevitable, and the first things that came to our minds were something related to death and meteors. I had the idea to make a game where you are the death, but you don't like to repair lives, so you keep delaying this job and making people live more. The 7th theme was Folklore, and for this we didn't really have a concrete idea of a game to make, but since we are Brazilians, we did use Brazil's folklore, which is very rich. In case you don't know, we even have some gods, and we thought about using them instead of the most traditional characters, like the Saci, Curupira, and Headless Mule. The 8th theme was Shelter, and this was my personal favorite theme after a brainstorm session. We thought of making a game where you are a little genderless child with an umbrella running away from the rain, and in this process you could find some shelters containing nice messages from other players, which was perfect for my personal goal of creating this social interaction. The visual and the atmosphere in my head was amazingly beautiful. The 10th theme was Road Trip, and it's my second favorite theme after the brainstorm session. We thought of creating a procedural path in which you have to drive through while leaving useful messages for other players in the way, similar to what Waze does in their GPS app. The 13th theme was Out of Order, and the idea we came up with was one of my favorites. We thought of creating a game where you are an elderly artist who is starting to have Alzheimer's, and you have to organize your old drawings in order to keep most of your good memories with a sliding puzzle mechanic. There were a lot of more cool ideas, but I don't want to extend this very much. I scratched the surface with some of our best ones. I really liked this brain exercise and it was very fun. By the way, a little shout out for our friend Gustavo Gonçalves for doing this with us. Thanks man, you are amazing and gave us really good ideas. The day after, the theme was officially announced and the community chose Delay the Inevitable, which unfortunately was one of the themes we had less good ideas. But well, that can happen. We started to brainstorm that theme deeper. I really like the idea that I mentioned about you being deaf but actually don't want to repair souls, so you use it as a base for the next brainstorming session. Another thing that came to our mind was candles, like the inevitability of fire extinguishing. We thought of having a limited vision and using it as a mechanic somehow. Running away from the wind, protecting your candle also came to our board. With this in mind, I remember a game made by Kenny, in which you have this shield around you and you have to defend from the enemy's arrow, so I thought of using it branch as a base and have to protect the candle in the middle from the winds or something like that. But we were still not sure about it, and while thinking about styles, we decided to go with a 2.5D, which is basically use the 3D world but with 2D sprites. And our main inspiration was the game Don't Starve. So the game would look something like this, combining the limited vision we talked about before. By the way, here you can see a lot of very nice sketches made by Chris while we were discussing ideas. At the end of the day, we still didn't have a concrete idea, but we had a lot of spaced thoughts about what we want to do. And one of our certains was that we want to have a 2D character to move in a 3D world. So the next day, the very first thing that I did was to start working on that. I grabbed this sprite sheet from somewhere on the internet to use as a placeholder for what will be our main character. And after a few minutes, it was already fully functional. Then I implemented a placeholder map to deal with walls and other collisions. Worth to mention that for this to work, we had to use this specific perspective. This is what it looks like behind the scenes. Also, the collider for the individual tiles had to be rotated to work properly. While I was doing that, Chris came up with a full game design concept, wrapping up all of what we discussed. You are a lost soul that just died, trying to get another shot in life. And for that, you have to collect good thoughts and memories around the world. These memories would be spread in little flowers across the whole map. And to collect, you have to keep your mind in the good memories and avoid the bad thoughts. Her main inspirations for this are Undertale and Stardew Valley. In Undertale, we also have flowers containing messages, and in Stardew Valley we have this fishing mechanic, which we used as a base for our game. So after knowing that, I start to work in the flower interaction mechanic. Basically, it will show a small E button above the flower when you move closer to it. After press, it will open the fishing minigame. In this, you have to maintain the bar below the heart to increase the bar on the right, which is constantly decreasing otherwise. If you fail in the minigame, the flower will die and you will lose the message. But if you win, you will see a nice message. After that, the core of the game was done and it was time to implement the work the others were doing. From now, he implemented the fog to limit your vision using this asset, the entire level design, and another message system which will tell you the story of the game, which by the way is also Leo who wrote everything. From Chris, all the art of the game, such as the main character, this nice little fella, is built in two parts, the far loop and the eyes and arm in different directions. The flower states the floor, bridge, arc, path and circle, the grave and the badge made of flowers, which is the start point of the game, the lamp base and light, the pagoda, which is the place where you finish the game, the power up for the fish minigame, death for the game over animation, game over screen, win screen, start screen and logo, the UI for the fish minigame, and all other UIs. And the entire audio of the game was made by Victor, like the nice soundtrack to set up the mood. And also many sound effects like main menu loop, main menu start, the fog loop, when you activate a light, when you are in contact with the bar in the fishing minigame, successfully solves a flower, when you lose the fishing minigame, bridge activation, when the walk just started, when the main character is walking, when the walk just stopped, when you collect a power-up, when you use the power-up, death animation, the game over scene, When you enter in the pagoda, the wing scene, pretty much everything was done and the game is already functional. But we were still missing the social interaction that I wanted, and for that we thought of giving the player the possibility to write one of the flowers messages. I asked one friend of mine for help, Magno Gouveia, and with his help we managed to successfully set up a server using Heroku and a database using MongoDB. I am storing the player's names and country to reinforce the feeling that it was written by a real person, and of course the message. We decided to make the player leave a message only if he or she finishes the game, to make it more valuable and work as kind of a reward, while also avoiding spamming. In the final moment, I did the screen where you can send a message. For the countries, I used this website and wrote a small script to fill the drop-down with the correct values. After some time the game was out to the public, we got a bit sad that most people weren't able to finish the entire game in order to send messages, but the ones that did were very kind and it was really gratifying to see people actually contributing to the idea. Here's some. The main feedback we received was that the bad thoughts in the fishing minigame were too difficult and random, which was a surprise for everyone because we thought it was pretty easy. And also people bothered by the fact the character moves faster horizontally than vertically. This happens because when moving vertically the player is also moving further away. And knowing that, I didn't bother with the movement, but I understand the strange feeling people had with it and I should have considered it. Overall, however, we had very good admission of the visuals and sounds. People said that the mood of both together was awesome and we were really happy to read that. From the team we thought we worked great together, and maybe our main flaw was that it took so much time to come up with the idea of the game. I don't really participate in London for the competition, it's just for fun, but anyway, after 20 days from the end of the gen, we can check in which positions we ended up based on votes from other participants. There were almost 3,000 submissions and more than 2,000 eligible for being ranked, and here's our positions. It's very coherent with the feedback we received, being graphics, audio and mood in the spotlight, and the others so-so. If you want to check the game by yourself, I will leave a link in the description. That's it for now. That was our experience in this edition of Ludum. When participating in a game jam, remember to have fun above everything. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!